So online learning was different, but we've made it to the end of the year, thank goodness. And I know we're all ready for a nice break before we have to dive into our summer activities as well. So stay tuned and listen to some ideas on what we've learned, what we've gained throughout this process of virtual learning.
Hello, and welcome to Music Ed All In, the podcast for music education majors and young music education professionals. Coming at you from Northeastern Ohio, I'm your host, Kevin Neese. It's time to go all in.
What is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning into episode 8. What have we learned as we are starting to wrap up the 2020 school year? So, congrats, everybody. We are in the last bit. I know today is May 31st. I know our kids at Nordonia go till June 2nd as their technical last day, and you have grades and stuff due on the 3rd and all that jazz. But I know it has been a crazy road for all us teacher folks, and it's been an interesting time doing virtual online learning, but we're all here. We made it to the end, and we're still alive and kicking. For you undergrads, I know you guys have been done for a month, and you feel like you got kind of shorted on some of the great opportunities that you get in that spring semester, and you're absolutely right. It's been definitely a struggle. It's been very challenging, and it's been, like I said, it's been a ride to say the least. But today I wanted to simply talk about, as we're wrapping up the school year, and I always laugh at that, especially for band folks. It's like we have stuff over the summer. And again, even though this summer may look different, we still have all this planning to do. But as the typical school year is starting to wind down, I wanted to talk about, things that we've learned in this process and then these last few months of online learning. So some funny things that we've learned is we've learned to love and hate Google Classroom to all levels and all ends of the spectrum. And to tie in with that, I think we've learned to, just appreciate all the resources that are available, but it has also opened our eyes to what truly is available to all students all over, not only your state, but all over the country. Another funny thing we learned is maybe technology wasn't as easy as some may have thought. I always think back to a meme that was going around. It was Willy Wonka, and it talked about like, oh, you students can figure out Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Tumblr, TikTok, like all of these different platforms, but you can't figure out how to click submit on Google Classroom or something like that. But and we're going to talk about that a little bit later too, and why that may be. But it's just some goofy things. We learned that technology, it's there in many places, but not always utilized in the way that we thought they would be. We learned that good kids struggle too in this process. Your top kids, you're learning that this was a challenge for everybody, not just maybe the students that were at risk, but this was a challenge for each and every one of us, not just students, teachers, administrators, the whole nine. Self-motivation is not something that everybody has. That's something that we already knew, but we saw it at a whole other level throughout this quarantine and online learning period. Band, choir, orchestra, all the arts, it's weird online. Plain and simple. Something that we never had to really anticipate to do before. But I mean, we learned that we could make certain things work, and we also learned that certain things are not feasible. And we learned what kind of worked and what kind of didn't. We learned that even without state testing and state grade cards and things like that, teachers, administrators, the education system was working harder than they ever have before. And I think it validates the fact that you don't necessarily need a test to match up with a kid and say this is what they are capable of doing. I just think that this shows that we can bust our butts and still do all of this great work, even if something like state testing isn't in place. And one of the last things I'll say that I think we've learned before we kind of dive into the other end of this topic is there's a drive to learn new tasks. Whether you're watching YouTube videos, you're learning how to do more trades-based work, there is a drive to learn, and there is a drive and passion to still grow. So going into the next part of this conversation, is kind of the harder part. What were things that we lost in this process? We talked about things that we've learned briefly, but things that we lost, especially in the world of music, we lost that social interaction piece, and I think that's probably the biggest thing that we did lose. You weren't getting that that rehearsal process that you're used to getting. You weren't getting that interaction, the kids walking through your band hallway, your orchestra wing, your choir hallway, whatever it may be. You weren't getting that interaction with those kids. You weren't able to build that camaraderie as easily as in virtual learning. It was just something that was neglected. Another thing we lost, unfortunately, was the ability to perform. Kids do music ensembles because they want to play, plain and simple. And the fact that they weren't given that, that adrenaline rush of performing, they weren't given that that option. It is sad. And, we saw virtual performances, which were super cool. We saw lots of really great things from those. But I think we all know it's not quite the same. It's just truthfully not getting that, feeling of playing in tune with all of the people around you, playing, even if it's one concert F or concert B flat, just something as simple as playing one note holistically with all of your peers around you. There's something special about that collaboration, that playing togetherness that we unfortunately did lose in this quarantine. As sad as it was that we lost all of those little components that contribute to one large activity, we've also gained a lot since we've switched to virtual online learning. If I could say it in one word, we've gained perspective in a whole new way. We have noticed and seen pitfalls in our systems, which isn't a bad thing. It drew our attention to see, oh, wow, like we have great resources, but maybe we aren't utilizing them in the same way. I'll say this with technology, and we're very, very fortunate that our kids, I believe grades 3 through 12, it's 1-to-1 ratio for a Chromebook. That's awesome. We're very, very lucky to have that. And we started to see that all ages, they had issues submitting simple assignments on Google Classroom and using the G Suite platform to perform different tasks. I know when I was in 6th grade, I was super lucky to have typing class for half of the year where you literally learned typing skills. You literally learned and you sat at the keyboard. They had those orange covers that everybody hated over the keys. You couldn't see what they were, but it taught us how to type. The second half of the year was learning Microsoft Office, and we learned how to use PowerPoint, Microsoft Word. We learned how to use Excel, Publisher. We learned how to use all of those things. And now that we've been fortunate enough to have all of this technology dispersed to all of the kids, and we do, quick moments of, oh, hey, this is how you do this. But I think it showed that we need to spend more time teaching how to use the technology and earlier on when they get the technology, rather than just throwing it at the kids and being like, all right, you have at it. You know how technology works. And it showed that it doesn't if you don't know how to use the basic functionality of the Chromebooks and the technology that's at your fingertips. And I was listening to another great podcast after sectionals, and they talked about this, in detail as well. And, it just showed that, again, it wasn't going to magically happen. Just because I give them a piece of technology doesn't mean they figure out all of the ins and outs of it simply by doing assignments for us. And it was something that it showed that there was a pitfall in that, system. Another thing that we've gained is insight to each individual student. I know when we were doing playing-based activities during this online learning period, I had a few students that would simply email me and ask, Mr. Neese, hey, can I have help on this passage that we're currently working on? And I was like, absolutely. I said, I'll send you a Google Meet, and then we'll get started. Seeing the progress and having that interaction of one-on-one interaction with the kids in that moment of being through a computer screen, but still being able to provide, quality, efficient feedback for those kids in that moment in time, the amount of improvement that you were able to see in just 10 to 15 minutes was awesome. And I thought back to class time, and I was like, when was I really given the opportunity to sit with a kid individually, one-on-one in the middle of class and give them like a mini lesson for 10 to 15 minutes? For my concert band that I teach at our school, I have about 60 kids in that room. If I did that every day, I wouldn't get through all of the kids. There's no way. And I thought about, we don't really get that opportunity to do one-on-one really ever, unless you have that pull-out ability in your system that is currently set up or in your program that you are able to function with. And this was such a great opportunity for me as a teacher to understand one-on-one what the kid was struggling with, what we can easily improve in just a short amount of time. And it was an awesome time not only to get better on our instrument, but to simply interact. As I said earlier, we lost that interaction that we have in that collaboration of a full ensemble rehearsal. But that one-on-one connection that we had was super brief, but so effective, not only for their playing, but just to build a trust and a relationship with that individual. Another thing that we gained through this was simple insight on what kids are going through on a daily basis. In this online learning platform, I think it was very clear kids were stressed, they were overwhelmed, and they honestly didn't know what to do at certain times. It was just a lot. And we got to talk through that process with them a lot more in this online platform. And we can see, and we were able to adapt what our lessons were doing, how we can modify them to put them in a better place and set them up for more success. Another thing that I think we gained in the midst of perspective is we saw that there is an appreciation for school. Kids want to get back. Kids want to get outside. They want to do these things now. And I think, we always laugh and joke. Our superintendent had made a comment of, I better get no comments of why haven't we had a snow day anytime next year or something like that, or I better not get one request to have an extended break next year or something goofy along those lines. And and it was great to laugh at something like that. But I think it shows that kids want to be in a classroom. They want to be around their friends. They want to be around their peers. They want to have that social interaction from a mental capacity standpoint, getting to see people that they saw every single day and have that completely taken away from them. We saw what kind of a toll that can take on an individual, and it was huge. Another thing that we saw in this and gained is we saw more people step up in every capacity. We saw administrators going above and beyond for their staffs. We saw teachers, again, doing amazing things, stepping up, creating very, very creative lesson planning. They did new projects, new things that were very interactive, even though that it was all virtual. Another thing that we gained perspective-wise that I thought was huge was from parent to teacher. Parents got to see what it was like teaching material to a student, and you saw just great praise for teachers, which was awesome. And teachers who have their own children, they got to see what it was like to be there the whole time with their kids. and again, I'm not going to pretend like I have kids of my own at home, because I surely don't. But it was, just scrolling through Facebook and seeing teacher friends saying like, oh my gosh, who are these kids? They can't be mine. or parents sharing fun information with teachers like, teachers, thank you so much for what you do. I don't know how you do this on a daily basis. It showed that we learned multiple perspectives and we simply understood where the other person was coming from. Moving forward, we clearly see that there are tasks that we can do better with simple modifications. Moving forward, we can also see that it's going to be challenging, plain and simple, because it's a raw reality that we may continue this virtual platform into the fall. Is that something that we all necessarily want? Obviously, no, it's not. But if that's what we have, that's what we're going to use, and it's what we're going to take advantage of. And then, as we saw before, teachers worked harder than ever before. If they're given that opportunity to plan over summer and do all of that, they're going to kill it in the fall, and it's going to be absolutely awesome, and they're going to make the absolute best of every situation. I remember I heard from an administrator one time, they said, regardless of what happens, good teachers make it work. That was in the midst of my undergrad, and that's something that really stuck with me. Regardless of what you're given, good teachers make it work. And what I saw is all teachers made it work. They stepped up to the plate. They went above and beyond. They did everything that you guys could, and it showed. And I think there was a great appreciation for that, not just from your building principals, not just from your other fellow colleagues, but the parents of these kids that were at home. They greatly appreciate everything that you guys were doing for them. Now, I know at times it was definitely frustrating because you would see, you had 95% participation on certain days and you might have 10%, maybe even lower on certain days from the kids. But that doesn't change the fact that you were learning to adapt to a new situation and you did everything that you could in that moment of time. From here, what do? You look at what you did, you see what you can improve, you see how you can get more kids involved. Plain and simple. And it's something that's in everybody's reach. It's just learning how to adapt, modify, and try new things moving forward. So what have we learned overall? We have learned that some things work, some things don't. Plain and simple. We've also learned that we are getting better at this every single day. We're learning more every day. We're learning how to better fit our art system, this musical system, inside a very, very weird mold, but we're making it work. And I think that's what's awesome to see throughout this entire process. This is not ideal. This is not what anybody had asked for or anticipated. But again, we make it work. It's what we do. And I think better to adapt than anybody are musicians and music teachers, because we are dealing with controlled chaos at our fingertips every single day. And that's never going to change. And this is just another hoop that we have to jump through for the time being. This isn't forever. This is temporary. And we can get through it with common sense. We can get through it with enthusiasm, energy, and positivity. As you go into summer, take a break, teachers. Take a break, undergrads. You all have well deserved this break. Take time for yourself, recharge, and dig right back into it and prepare yourselves diving into this summer stuff, or if you're in marching band activities, diving into the fall for your kids. Thanks again for listening, everybody. Take it easy.
Hey guys, thanks again so much for listening. If you liked this video, please feel free to subscribe. If you're more of a visual person, feel free to subscribe right on YouTube. If you're more of just wanting an audio, if you're that person that likes to ride in their car, be sure to check out Buzzsprout, iTunes, and Spotify. If you like to email, feel free to email musiced.allin@gmail.com. Don't forget to like the Music Ed All In Facebook page for updates, trailers, and more. Take it easy, gang, and always go all in.